In this episode of Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf, I sit down with GRAEME to talk all about Burnt Island's game's latest game, In the Hall of the Mountain King, that's on Kickstarter currently. This episode of Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf is proudly being powered by Braden's World, makers of Heroes of History card game. Sam, the game's creator, was on with us a few episodes back, episode 235, Wishlist Wednesday on Saturday, Heroes of History Take 2 to be exact, to talk about this game, and after we got our copy, we are really excited to get started. It's the only game on the market where you can have Norse heroes fight American generals in a Minotaur's lair, which I can't wait to try out. The new set of Glorious Greeks and Vicious Vikings is out now. For listeners of the show, you can get a 10% rebate on the game by emailing sam@bradensworld.com. We'll leave the email link in the show notes with a copy of your receipt, and he'll get you 10% off. And for the first 10 listeners to leave an Amazon or eBay review, he'll also send you an extra 5% rebate. So visit bradensworld.com and learn more about how you can order Iron Flanks versus Dragon Boat Raiders, as well as the beginner set Midnight Riders versus Echoes of the Plains. Heroes of History. Do you have what it takes to be a hero? This episode of Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf is proudly being powered by Heroes and Treasure, Darkness and Light campaign. The popular Heroes and Treasure family RPG expands with new maps, enemies, and treasures. Play it with kids 4 years old and up, even bring teens. It's a game we'd like to get to the table when we bring back Rolling with the Leafs. It'll be on Kickstarter through Tuesday, March 12th, so if you want to bring your kids your love of role-playing games, definitely check out Heroes and Treasure, Darkness and Light campaign. This episode of Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf is proudly being powered by INSURED, the survival-based board game. For 3 to 8 players, do you have what it takes to survive? Would you strategize and manipulate to win, or would you leave it all up to fate? Find out in INSURED, the survival-based board game. That'll be on Kickstarter through Thursday, the 21st of February. Not convinced? Go give it a listen. In their update entitled Podcast, we go ahead and sit down with the designer. It's reached its funding goal, so definitely check out INSURED, the survival-based board game. This episode of Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf is proudly being powered by Dark Naga, Haunting of Hastur, Hardback 5e and OSR. It's a hardback color omnibus edition of the Haunting of Hastur modules, Dark Naga 1 through 5 with VTT maps and extras. Not convinced by this brief intro? Go give my sit down with Kevin a listen in the update entitled Update for week of February 4th, 2019. But you definitely don't want to dilly-dally and back it now, as it's only on Kickstarter through tomorrow, Sunday, the 17th of February, at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. This episode of Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf is proudly being powered by 9 Lives. It's a card game about cats for cat lovers, cat haters, and cat neutral people. Even dog people will love it. They reached their funding goal and will be on Kickstarter through Sunday, the 3rd of March. This episode of Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf is proudly being powered by me. That's right, we're on Kickstarter with Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf Podcast Season 3. Help us bring the kids on the video shows by helping us get to the stretch goal. Plus, if we can get another 90 backers, everyone's pledge levels are worth a lot more asymmetrically, so to speak, as y'all will get more asymmetric podcast power, so to speak. So check out our Kickstarter campaign now and back it if you can. Even $1 goes a long way. New to Kickstarter? Nothing will be charged to your card until April 1st. But by backing it now and having it charged later, you're helping us unlock all kinds of cool content that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamerleaf.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with GamerLeaf. So glad you could make it. I can't wait to share this little chat I had with GRAEME about his new game. But first, let's see what's on Kickstarter currently.
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaf's computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leafs.
If you didn't already catch it, go back and listen to the interview about Theosis Godslayer. I just barely launched. Don't worry, we'll wait for you. What did you think? Theosis Godslayer is a mini expansion to the core game Theosis with an amazing, huge miniature. Yep, quite the mini expansion if I can say so myself. I know I want one. Lady Leaf loves dragons too, so what the heck, we'll take 7. One for each one of us and the kids. You want one too? Well, don't dilly-dally, as it's only on Kickstarter through Tuesday, the 19th of February, so check out Theosis Godslayer. Did you catch the interview I released just before that one? Well, what are you waiting for? Go back and listen. We'll wait for you again. I love chatting with Peter all about Head Chef, the tabletop card game of food, fame, and fun. In this tabletop card game for 1 to 4 hungry players, you will cook food, earn fame, and become, you guessed it, Head Chef. There's less than a week to back it, and they're oh so close. So let's make it happen. Check out Head Chef and back it before Friday, the 22nd of February. We teased about this one at the first of the episode, and noticed you haven't been over to check out their campaign yet. So go check it out. 9 Lives, a card game about cats. It's a card game for cat lovers, cat haters, and cat neutral people. Even dog people will love it too. Even backed by GamerLeaf, if you can believe that. I sat down with Ice, one of the designers, to talk all about it. You can find that interview in their update entitled, We Are Nearly 100%. But not to fret, they've since reached their funding goal. Check out 9 Lives and some awesome and interesting stretch goals before Sunday the 3rd of March. Analog Game Studios is at it again with Duels of Cartosora, 2 players, 6 warriors. If you haven't listened to my sit down with Richard the publisher and the designer Jeremy, jump on over and give it a shot. Easily searchable by going to their update entitled Getting Geeky with GamerLeaf Cartosora interview. Go ahead and pause this show. We'll wait for you. What do you think? I agree. It was a fun interview, and the game also sounds like it'd be quite fun. Asymmetrical War, the card game, is what it gives me the vibe of. I loved War growing up, so I can only imagine. So let's help them make this rendition of the classic a reality by backing Duels of Cartosora, 2 players, 6 warriors, that'll be on Kickstarter through Sunday, the 10th of March. Seems like it was just yesterday that I was playing Incoming Transmission at my game group, while or before it was on Kickstarter last time. I loved it then. So imagine my surprise when I discovered they launched an enhancement and it was on Kickstarter as Incoming Transmission Co-op Deduction Board Game plus app. I had to see what all the fuss was about. So I had to have Ian on the show to talk about it. I did just that. If you haven't heard it yet, go give it a listen. You can easily find it by clicking the link in the show notes to their campaign and then going to their update entitled Week 1 Report. Companion app, now 67% funded. In case you were out celebrating the holiday of love, go give it a listen now. What do you think? I'm excited for the enhancements. I hope they can get to the point to get them on iOS, as I'm not an Android guy. Let's go help them get Incoming Transmission Co-op Deduction Board Game plus app funded and to those stretch goals by backing it before Tuesday the 26th of February. Have you heard us talk about this expansion? Overlords of Infamy, Misery Loves Company. Every couple episodes? No? Don't worry then. Keep your ears open and your eyes on the road, and I'll do my best to do it justice. Get to a safe place to pull over, and then you can back it. The Kickstarter says this about it: the jam-packed expansion to our flagship game, Overlords of Infamy. What I like to say is, in the initial game, you could be the hero or the overlords. In this one, however, there's another player option added, so it's not just overlords versus heroes. You've still got that, but now y'all are all against a dragon as well. Sounds like an expansion for the Leafs. So go check out Overlords of Infamy, Misery Loves Company on Kickstarter near you and back it before Friday the 22nd of February. Clackmal, 4 daring jungle dice games in a tin. That's right, Clackmal. Who will be the next Maya Roar? Find out if it'll be you in the second daring dice game. There's a special Make 100 pledge level, and it also includes solo play. I had Tony on the show a bit ago. Go to my podcast directory over at GamerLeafGo.com and give it a listen. Then rush back here and give the page a gander and back it so you can become the Maya Roar. In Clackmal, 4 daring jungle dice games in a tin. Alliance, a card game. That's right, battle in the fantasy world of Alliance. Simple to learn and play. A battle between armies to defeat your opponent's leader. There's still 3 weeks to go to get in on the fun of this one. I really enjoyed my sit down with the creator, and there's a bunch of different previews going on over at their Kickstarter page. Plus, you can find all the different podcasts. Well, I guess there's just the one. Go ahead and go over to their main Kickstarter page. Click on where it says Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf interview, and I would guess that would take you right where you want to go. Speaking of Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf podcast, don't forget to check out our campaign for Season 3 that'll be on Kickstarter for a while longer. Plus, check out update number 8 if you haven't. Now, we join this interview already in progress.
Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
The war was generations ago. Our hated gnome rivals drove us from our ancestral home beneath a mountain, and now something has happened. The mountain has collapsed, taking our revenge for us. The rubble of our ancient halls calls out for we trolls to come home. As a respected leader, gather a following of trolls from the mud, fire, ice, and moon clans. Dig tunnels clad in stone, iron, and heartstone, forging pathways into the earth. Carve out spacious galleries as great halls. Unearth the statues of the ancients, and with the help of the clans, return them to places of glory in the mountain's heart. The surging cascade of trolls returning home and joining our ranks will grow even mightier as our kingdom is rebuilt, rising and crashing forward until one leader rises above the rest to be crowned the Mountain King.
The war was generations ago. Driven from our ancestral home beneath the mountain, we have been wandering the wilderness, scratching out survival in the cold and the dirt. But now something has happened. We feel it in our bones. Without the soul of our people to sustain it, the mountain has collapsed, taking our revenge for us. Our enemies have fled, and the rubble of our ancient halls calls out for we trolls to come home. So we shall go. By claw and by hammer, and by sweat and by song, we will return to our home, and our home will return to us. As a respected leader, gather a following of trolls from the mud, fire, ice, and moon clans. Dig tunnels clad in stone, iron, and heartstone. Carve out spacious galleries as great halls. Unearth the statues of the ancients, and with the help of the clans, return them to places of glory near the mountain's heart. The surging cascade of trolls returning home will grow ever mightier as our kingdom is rebuilt, rising and crashing forward until one leader rises above the rest to be crowned the Mountain King.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but this is a story of In the Hall of the Mountain King, a new game that's currently on Kickstarter coming to us from Burnt Island Games, and today we're lucky enough to have on one of the designers and masterminds behind this game. Is that correct, Graham? Is that how you fall in line with In the Hall of the Mountain King?
That is the story, the background story that we made up for this game. It sounds really fun. I like it, that's for sure.
Awesome. And you're one of the designers, or how do you fit in line with this whole game?
Yes, I am one of the designers. Myself and my friend Jay Cormier, who you probably remember from such smash hits as Belfort and Junkart, just to name a couple. Yeah, we designed this one together.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Now, before we get into talking about this game and everything, let's rewind a little bit if we could. How did you get into playing tabletop board games, Graham?
So it was in my university days. I was playing board games as a kid for a long time ago, and even as young as like 7 years old, I would start designing games. They were terrible, of course, because they were all roll and move games, because that was all I knew at the time. And then left them behind for a long time. Played a little bit of Supremacy and Diplomacy in my high school years, which I enjoyed, but it wasn't my favorite style of game until a friend of mine introduced me to Settlers of Catan when I was in university. I think that's how a lot of us got started. And that was when I figured out that there was this whole other line of games that really intrigued me. I really liked the concept of Euros, so fell in with Carcassonne and started getting in Ticket to Ride, and then it just expanded from there.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome to hear how you were able to come back over. Have you ever gone back to any of your games from your childhood that you were trying to design?
Oh, nobody wants to see those. I mean, my mom was gracious and play tested every single one of them. But like, I can look back on them and go, yeah, those were terrible games, but that's okay because you have to iterate and learn from your mistakes and to get better, and so that's fine. I'm happy with what we did back in the day, and that we can move forward from there.
Awesome. And you talked about not longer playing the necessarily just a roll and move games. What are you playing currently these days?
So for a long time, I wanted to be a part of the cult of the new, but I realized that I just couldn't keep up. So, but I like to try as many different games as possible. So I've been having a lot of fun with, what have I been playing? I've actually been playing a lot of Decrypto lately, and I've been playing a lot of Welcome To lately. I've been getting together with my neighbors, and we've been having a lot of fun together. So Decrypto and Welcome To have been taking up a ton of my time.
Awesome. And per se, somebody hasn't heard of those. What mechanic do they use?
Decrypto is a party game where one side is trying to give clues. They're trying to give clues to their own team. You have words in front of you. It's a word association game. So you have a series of words in front of you, and one person on your team has to give clues that match up to the different topics, and the rest of your team has to guess the topic that it was a part of just by using a number, because they're numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you have this code. So the person who's giving the clues has a code that they need to follow. And the opposing team is listening to those words, and then they're starting to figure out round by round which are the clues that they're talking about. So they try to break the code and figure out what that number sequence is going to be. And both teams are doing this to each other. So you want to make the words, your clues, as obscure as possible so that only your team gets it and not the other team. But if you ever make your clues so obscure that even your own team messes up, you can lose the game that way as well. So it walks this really fine line that's it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like it. And the other one, what kind of mechanics does it use? You said, Welcome To. What does that use?
It's essentially a roll and write, except for the fact that there are no dice. They just use decks of cards for actions. So everybody's trying to create their own little suburb. It's the really exciting game of writing house numbers on houses. But you end up having cards in front of you, and you just choose from a set of house numbers which house number you would like to play on your houses, and you're trying to get the houses in ascending order from lowest to highest and make these little neighborhoods. And each house number also has a special power if you're trying to put some pools in, or if you're trying to build parks, or if you're trying to put fences to make neighborhoods. There's lots of different ways to score points, and it's a great game because it can hold as many people as you want, down from 3 up to, I think I've played it like with 10 or 11.
Well, that's awesome. And this one was, what do you call it? So the Welcome to, that reminds me kind of, it wasn't necessarily a game, but back in high school, I would go around with a friend and he had a business. We'd go ahead and paint the street numbers on people's curbs.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, it's a very similar thing. You lived the game.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So it sounds pretty fun. Now, on a completely different note, at least it looks like it, looking at the Kickstarter, the word on the street is you recently created a game called In the Hall of the Mountain King. What can you tell us about this game?
So In the Hall of the Mountain King is a game about hiring trolls. It's resource collection. Then once you collect those resources, you're wanting to dig out tunnels in the mountain, and you're wanting to uncover some ancient statues and move them to the middle of the tunnel in order to honor the ancient clans ahead of you.
Awesome. And how, like, per se, me and you sat down to play In the Hall of the Mountain King. What's my turn going to look like, Graham?
So your turn is broken down into 4 steps. Most of the steps are optional. There's only one mandatory thing. At the beginning of your turn, you have the option of casting a spell, because we have spells in the game that allow you to break the fundamental rules. So you can cast a spell, and or you can use some of the workshops that you've set up. And workshops are essentially ways for you to exchange one type of resource to another type of resource. They're like private trading houses. So you can do both of those at the start of your turn, cast a spell and use a workshop. Once that's done, you have your main action, which is either hiring a troll, and when you hire a troll, it will generate resources. And the perhaps the most unique feature of the game is what we're referring to as cascading production. So when you hire trolls, you end up hiring them in a pyramid, and let's call it a pyramid scheme. You hire your trolls in a pyramid. You start with 4 basic trolls, and every time you hire a new troll, you place it over top of and just slightly offset from the previous one, so your new troll sits over top of 2 trolls beneath it. And so the new troll that you hire generates resources, and the 2 trolls underneath it generate resources as well. So every time you're hiring a troll, you always activate all of the trolls that over underneath it as you go. So you start with 4 trolls, and over the course of the game, you're going to hire up to your 10th troll, and then your whole pyramid generates resources, and it's super satisfying experience to just get all this goodness coming in.
Wow, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's so satisfying when that happens. So that's one of your main actions. But if you don't hire a troll, then you can use the resources that you have to dig tunnels. And you have 3 different materials to dig tunnels with. So you can dig short tunnels or long tunnels. Longer tunnels are worth more points. And if you can dig them out of stone, it's worth a certain number of points. If you can dig it with iron, it's more. And if you can dig it with heartstone, it's even more. So you've got different length tunnels that you can dig, and you've got different resources you can use to score more points. And then all these tunnels are coming together so that as the last action on your turn, if you've unearthed any statues, you can spend some of your carts. These are another resource. You have little carts that can move carts, and you want to try to move their statues from tunnel to tunnel, as close to the middle of the tunnel, to the middle of the mountain as possible, so that you can get more points.
Okay, awesome. So it sounds like a pyramid scheme. Was it based off of Amway or one of those multi-level marketing schemes?
Yeah, exactly. That wasn't the origin of the game. Is actually my daughter was practicing the piano, and she was playing a simplified version of the music piece In the Hall of the Mountain King. For your listeners who are familiar with classical music, there is a piece called In the Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg, and it's a super fun piece where the beginning of the piece, it starts really slow and plodding. But over the course of the music, it gets faster and faster and more exciting and more exciting. And I've always loved that piece of music. And I was chatting with my friend Jay, the other designer, and I said, Jay, I love the name In the Hall of the Mountain King. It's just a fun name. Wouldn't it be great to make a board game called In the Hall of the Mountain King? And he said, yeah, he's like, what's amazing is that is absolutely one of my favorite pieces of music. So he knew instantly what I was talking about. And he said, I think that would be great. But if we're going to do this, we've got to we've got to make it so that the game feels like the piece of music where it kind of starts slow, but then it builds up to this huge crescendo at the end of the game. And so after brainstorming for a couple of days, we came up with this cascading production where you don't get a lot of resources at the beginning, but finally at the end of the game, you're just flush with resources. And we feel like we've captured the feeling of the song.
Well, that's good to hear. So you achieved your goal.
Yeah, we did.
And it also talks about territory denial. I've heard of territory control, but what can you tell about the territorial denial in the game?
So when you're digging out your tunnels, everybody's digging in one giant mountain. And so as you're digging your tunnels out, different players' tunnel networks are not allowed to touch. They can't orthogonally touch. The closest you can get is like a corner diagonally touching. So if you expand over closer to one of your neighbors, maybe you want to get some of the resources or get some of the statues, then you're pushing out your opponent. So you're kind of fighting for some of this territory under the mountain.
Okay, awesome. And so if you ever touch, does that put you out of the game, or how does that work?
No, it's simply an illegal move. You're not allowed to do it.
Okay, there you go. Awesome. Yeah, so it sounds pretty cool. And working with another designer, how does that work? Because is that difficult, or how does that work? How does that go down with you working with Jay?
One of the things I love about working with Jay, we have tried, this is actually our second attempt at designing a game together. The first time we tried, we had an interesting idea, but we weren't able to make something of it. So this was kind of fun. But one of the things I love working with Jay is that I've done a couple games by myself. And one of my challenges is that, you get a new game idea and you take it to a certain point and it's a lot of fun, but then it can be sometimes hard to get past with that last little bit of making everything smooth. And it's easy to fall into a slump and then just move on to a new game. But one of the great things about working with Jay is that he's really good at really pushing about finding that next solution. And we got really good at bouncing ideas off of each other. Like each of us would come up with an idea that we thought was silly, but then we would take those silly ideas and we would refine them and like, well, how can we refine and tweak them? And we really drove each other to try to make the game as streamlined as possible. And we're pretty happy with the result.
Awesome. During the play testing, was there anything you guys had to scrap because it just wouldn't work for the game?
We always try to, I'm trying to think of something that we have. Oh, yes, actually, very early on, one of the things we were toying with was that instead of having two choices on your turn of hiring a troll or digging a tunnel, what would happen was that every turn you would just grab a troll and you would place it in your mountain, and the different resources and the icons that you activated from playing your trolls, that was it. That was what you got to do on your turn. So if you wanted to dig a tunnel, then you had to get a troll that had tunnel digging icons in order to actually dig tunnels in your mountain. And people were still enjoying the game, but everybody admitted that it was kind of frustrating that like sometimes you would get lots of these and sometimes you wouldn't get very much, and people just wanted to dig in the mountain. And so then we realized, like, why are we limiting? We also had, in addition to these digging icons, we had the resources of the stone, the iron, and the heartstone. Why are we also limiting our players by forcing them to get these other icons? So we ripped those icons out of the game and just let players dig tunnels when they wanted to, and the whole game started playing way better.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Now, once you got the game you narrowed it down to that and everything, how does that go to getting it to a publisher? Because you didn't publish it yourselves, did you?
No. Burnt Island, Jay attends several different game conferences over the course of the year. So he happened to be attending one of these conferences where there were multiple publishers. And he had been showing it to another publisher, and he had just been visiting with Burnt Island because, for those of you, again, who are familiar with Belfort, the art director of Burnt Island is Josh Capel, who did the art for Belfort for Jay and Sen for Belfort. And so they were just getting together to hang out because they had been friends for years. And Jay was talking about In the Hall of the Mountain King, and Josh's wife, Helena, who runs Burnt Island Games, said, you've got to play that game with me. I really want to give it a try. And so at the time, Jay had already handed it over to this other publisher for them to evaluate. So they had to kindly go and ask them if they could borrow the prototype so that he could show Helena. And they fell in love with it almost immediately and came and said that they wanted to sign it. So we were overjoyed with how that worked out.
Oh, okay, awesome. So that was pretty cool how it worked out. And then how does it go after that? They take a total control over it, or do they still work with you guys, or how does that go down?
They're actually super fun to work with because they, as part of a contract, they can have total creative control if they want, but they make sure that they are always discussing with us what changes that they want to make. And, they'll tell us from their play tests some of the things that aren't working, and we'll tell them from our play tests some things. So it's been a real collaborative process to take it from the point where they signed it to where it is now, a much different. The underlying concepts are the same, but we've communally made a lot of improvements to the game.
Awesome. That's good. So you guys just do a lot of collaboration with them after they picked it up?
Yeah, there's lots of collaboration going on.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. And how did you guys know, I guess you worked with them, but how did you guys know when it was ready and done and ready to go to Kickstarter?
The vast majority of the changes had slowed down a while ago. And so we got to that point where we realized that, we're not making development changes. They were wanting to, we had been driving hard in order to polish things off because they always in the back of their mind had a schedule of kickstarting early 2019. And so we were just making sure during the later months of 2018 that any changes that we were making were just minor tweaks because we had solved all the major problems in the early days.
Oh, that's good to hear that you're able to do that. When it comes to In the Hall of the Mountain King, what would you say you're most proud of?
It's the Cascade production that I'm most proud of because that's just from seeing some of the early reviews come through. We've been super honored to hear, if you've seen some comments by Rado, he's been talking about how it's a very innovative game, and there have been people over at Tantrum House saying that they really enjoy the game and it's unlike anything they've ever played. And so hearing those comments is just so nice for us as designers because, as you know, it's hard to come up with something new in board games. So many of the ideas have already been done. And, you can make a really fun game out of mechanisms that have already been done before. And that's totally legitimate. But for people to come out and say that they haven't played anything like this and that they consider it innovative, that's music to our ears.
That's good. So it kind of loops back into creating it based off of the song then, I guess.
Yes, exactly. It's all music.
There you go. So that's awesome. Now, with In the Hall of the Mountain King, what makes you guys' game pop as when my audience should go check out the Kickstarter campaign and they like what they see? Why should they back it, Graeme?
The final or the deluxe edition pieces are absolutely gorgeous. They've got some metal coins in the works. They've got some amazing little cart figurines and some hammer figurines. They're just absolutely gorgeous pieces. Oh, the statues and the pedestals are these amazing 3D artwork statues for the deluxe pieces. The box is going to come with a game tray to hold all the pieces, and that game tray looks really well thought out and organized. It's if you're gonna get the deluxe version is great. It's just gorgeous. Not to take if anybody who just wants to back the retail version, there are some amazing wooden pieces if plastic pieces aren't your thing. I'm looking at the little statue meeples right now, and they're gorgeous themselves. But if you're looking for the deluxe edition, they've done something special there.
Yeah, my wife was trying to decide which one she wanted, and then she was going to go with the regular one, but then she saw, like you talked about, those deluxe edition components, and she was like, that made her up her decision for her.
Yeah, and the deluxe edition components are a Kickstarter exclusive. They're not going to be selling any of those deluxe edition components afterwards. I think they're making a couple extra printings just in case people have manufacturing problems with some of theirs, so that they can send replacement parts. But if you're wanting to get deluxe pieces, you've got to do it on the Kickstarter.
Okay, and it sounds besides the component, it sounds like the gameplay is very innovative. And if you ever liked Amway or anything like that, but you wanted a twist of a fantasy twist on it, it sounds like you guys achieved that. Plus, if anybody likes classical music in the Hall of the Mountain King, it sounds like it's similar to that as well.
It touches all those bases, yeah.
So somebody goes ahead and they take a chance on it, and well, I guess it's not necessarily taking a chance, as it has funded and reached its funding goal, and it's going for stretch goals now. But they go ahead and back it. When would they anticipate getting their game so they can try to become the Mountain King, I guess?
From what the Kickstarter is saying, they are aiming to have copies delivered in December of this year. So you should have it in time for Christmas. You could buy, get your Christmas shopping done early, back this game now, and then you've got something to put under the tree at Christmas this year.
Well, there you go. I don't know if you've been on any other podcasts, have you?
We've recorded a couple so far. I don't think any of them have aired yet, but I would say that this one was a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. So, depending on when those other ones air, if I get this out before they get out, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Go ahead and get your Christmas shopping done early.
That was my tip. I did not give that tip to anybody else. That is exactly this tip here. Get your Christmas shopping done early.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, how you can do that, and also bring home an awesome game from the sounds of it. So that's great. We'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so they can go ahead and come on over. Now, we don't want to keep you all night, so just a couple more questions for you. Minus coming to the Kickstarter to check out things, how would people go about following you or keeping up with you, minus coming to your hometown to stalk you?
I do have a Twitter account. My Twitter handle is at InstaGraEMJ. That's INSTAGRAEME. And so I do have updates on some of the games I'm working on. You can also check out my profile on Boargamegeek to see some of the other games I've made. Alba Longa, which was published back in 2009, and Damn It, which came out just last year. It's a nice little card game about beavers building dams. And I've always got more things in the work. You'll hear more in upcoming months, I'm sure.
Awesome. And we'll also leave links in the show notes and how you can follow Burnt Island Games as well. Now, speaking of stuff that you have upcoming in the future, is there anything in your back pocket that maybe you can reveal on the podcast for the listeners?
Nothing super definitive yet, but I can tell you, if you are fans of In the Hall of the Mountain King, Jay and I are already working on another title, so we're determined that this collaboration won't be our last.
Well, there you go. Is it going to be based on something in Beethoven or something like that?
Maybe. We actually have discussed about doing a line of musical based games, but there's nothing definitive yet.
Okay, awesome. So they'll have to go ahead and follow you, I guess, so you can stay up with them. But that's awesome to...
I should recommend that everybody follow Burnt Island Games on Twitter. One of the stretch goals for In the Hall of the Mountain King is introducing a team play, a 2v2 team play in the game. But that's a social stretch goal. That only happens if Burnt Island Games gets 1,000 followers on Twitter. They're close to 700, but so they've got a few weeks to get up to 300. So that'll unlock a new game mode if you come and follow Burnt Island Games. It'll help make the game better for everybody.
Awesome, and we'll leave links in the show notes so they can go ahead and do that. So that's awesome. Now, like I said, we don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us today to talk all about In the Hall of the Mountain King. We really appreciate it, Graham.
It was super fun. Thank you so much for having me. Anytime.
No problem. We appreciate it. What do you think? I really enjoyed sitting down with Graham to talk all about his new game, and I can't wait to play it. If you feel the same way, go ahead and make sure you click that link in the show notes and check out the campaign and back it if you like what you see. Do that with any of the games we mentioned, and it's our least favorite time, your least favorite time for us to get on with our lives, you to get on with yours. In the meantime, I hope you'll get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into Geekfold, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.